When something is made with intention, it does not remain hidden. It alters the air. It changes the shape of the world around it. And whether we meant to or not, it is something that gets noticed. Are you sure?
My men know Goblin Wolf Rider signs when they see it.
Last week I talked about how much of what we see as new rests on the old or what came before it. And it really kind of set my brain thinking about creation and creativity and the essence of it and where it comes from. So I got to working from this idea that nothing begins from nothing. Every idea carries memory. Every image that we see echoes something that came before it. We borrow, we reshape, we remember. But I don't want to revisit last week in that sense, because I really want to kind of address a question of, is that all creation is? Is it just rearranging what we've already seen? You know, I look at Star Wars. It carried old serials, samurai films, myth, westerns, stories layered on stories, and yet, even though it came from all of that, it became something of its own. So it's that shift. Where does that shift happen? So where does influence end and identity begin? For a long time, we call it a spark. Years ago, I would have called it a divine thing, something breathed into clay, if you will. But I'm not a supporter of that ideology anymore. And so I began to ask myself, maybe it's something quieter than that. And I began to think about several things that I've thought about, that creation really begins in choice. A color held here instead of replaced. A line drawn and not erased. A detail kept when the rest falls away. Why that one? Why not the other? I mean, even here, not everything survives the forge. It's only what we or I decide what matters. And it's that decision, that act of attention, I think it changes something. Patterns harden, possibility narrows, form begins to take shape. We didn't invent the pieces, but somewhere between memory and attention, something catches. Like these miniatures. I look on the internet and I watch other YouTube channels and I'm like, oh, that's an interesting way to do it. And I like A and I don't like the way he did B. And at the end of the day, I find I make choices, paint something a certain way or a certain color or highlight something a different way. And it's somewhere there that I realize that somewhere between what I've seen, memory, and intention, something catches. It becomes a new entity, something other, if you will. I love it when a comment drops and someone says, I see what you're doing. I smile. It feels like someone pulling back the curtain and winking at me while I stand there, working the levers of the great and powerful wizard. People have pointed out some things in this channel that I absolutely intended. Create something because you can. Yes, that's the real theme of this channel. And have fun doing it. But there are some things, and sometimes they're dead on. Sometimes they get in there and they see echoes I've planted on purpose, and I love hearing from those people. And sometimes they see things I didn't mean to put there at all. In fact, one of my favorites was a friend of mine said, the exploding books in the Christmas episode, that was symbolic. That was you blowing up the old version of your channel, which was a book channel, to make room for this fantasy realm. And I was like, oh, well, that's a cool idea. I didn't plan that, but I do love the idea. It wasn't my intention at all. I was actually working a different angle entirely. And yet, once it was seen, I'm thinking, yeah, I'll lean into that. And that's the strange part. somewhere between my memory and intention, between what I meant and what you saw, something else forms. Something absolutely beyond my control. And that's the way creation should work. Once something created is noticed, it does not wait for permission. It moves. It finds its shape. Because creation does not ask to be contained. It becomes.
Drum fears we have too few hands. And now, too many eyes.